welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a reading and book vlog with you, telling you some of the books that I've read recently, 5 books that I've read recently, and my reviews and recommendations from that. First of all, I'm very excited to be filming from the office of our new house. This is a much better setup for me for filming my vlogs, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to filming my first vlog from here today. So let's get into some of the books I have been reading recently. So I mentioned before in my last book vlog that I have been keeping a reading journal so far this year. So my goal for 2022 was to read 30 books, and I'm currently at 12. So it is July, we are halfway through the year, I'm not quite halfway through my target. However, I find that once I am on my summer holidays from work, and I tend to read an awful lot more, so hopefully that should jump back up and I should be back on target by the end of the summer holidays. So I have been keeping a log of how many pages I read each month. So each month, here's February for example, I put down how many pages I read each day. It's a bit OCD, but I really like knowing how many pages I read in a month. And then I've been doing review pages once I finish a book as well. So I just really like it because I tend to find that once I've read a book and I'm on to the next one, I've almost forgotten a little bit about what the books I read were about. So I like it just to know whether I liked a book, and it makes me go back and look to see which authors I've enjoyed, to see what other books I could try by those authors. So I'm going to get into the first book I'm going to talk about today. So the first book that I wanted to talk to you about today is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, I was a little bit wary of this one. I know it's a TikTok sensation. I'm too old for TikTok, so that's all I'd heard about it really. I'd heard a lot of hype about it, and I was hoping that it wasn't going to let me down, and it absolutely didn't. It is a beautifully written novel. It's very intricate. I love the way it deals with some really hard-hitting issues in a really realistic way. I absolutely loved the characters. They're flawed, they're real, and I just found it a really, really interesting book. And I would say for about the final fifth of the book, the final sort of 20% of the book, I found my emotions were literally wrangled. I was living through these moments with the main character, Lily, and my heart broke for her. It was a really, really good novel at getting into your emotions and making you feel things for these fictional characters. I have heard as well that it's going to be turned into a film, which I think will be brilliant, and I'll be really looking forward to that. It was my first book I've read by Colleen Hoover. I've heard lots about her as an author. Like I said, she's pretty popular as a TikTok sensation. So yeah, I am interested in reading some more of her books, I quite like her style of writing, and I think they're really well developed characters, and the book offers an absolute kaleidoscope of emotions that you can really relate to. And one thing I would say as well is that the afterword in this book, a lot of times I skip the afterword. Normally it's just a lot of thank yous from the author to people who have been involved. However, I enjoyed this book so much that I felt I owed it to Colleen Hoover to read the afterword as well, and I'm so glad that I did. And I really would suggest reading the afterword if you do read this book, because she goes into a bit of a backstory about her own life and how some of the themes and scenarios that are portrayed in the novel are mirrored in Colleen's own personal life. And I thought that gave me a bit more of an idea about how it was so realistically written, and yeah, my heart just ached for her as well, that she had actually had first-hand experience of some of these situations. There is a theme of domestic violence throughout this book, which is very difficult to read at times, but like I said, Colleen Hoover explaining in the afterword that a lot of that was similar to some experiences she had been through just gave that bit of an edge to make it even more realistic and even more emotional, having read the book. I really enjoyed it. I gave this book 5 stars. I've recommended it to a few people already. And like I said, I'll be looking forward to seeing if the film that is planned for it matches up to the book, and I really hope it does. Moving on to the second book I'm going to talk to you about today then, and it is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I mentioned one of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books in my top 5 books of 2021. So I read Daisy Jones and the Six last year, which was a great historical fiction, sort of a fictional biopic, if you like, of Daisy Jones and the Six, a band throughout the 70s. And I absolutely loved that book, and so I was very excited to read a newer instalment from Taylor Jenkins Reid. She sticks to the more sort of historical fiction, set mainly in the 80s this time, with flashbacks to the 50s and sort of the parents' relationship. So it's based around the Hoover family. There are 4 siblings that make up this family, and their parents, June and Mick. So it's in the flashbacks to the 1950s that June and Mick's relationship sort of plays out. And those chapters I thought were brilliant. They really brought to life the situations that were going on in the present day, which was in the 80s, once the children are grown up. Each of the characters, the 4 siblings, I felt like their characters were really well developed. You had chapters that were from their different points of view, so you really got to grips with how each character was feeling about different situations and the scenarios that they were getting themselves into, each of their different struggles, each of their different responsibilities in the world that they were growing up in. And yeah, there was very good character development with it. However, considering how much I enjoyed Daisy Jones and the Six, this one did leave me a little bit underwhelmed. The premise is that it's set around a party that's being held. So the Hoover siblings live in Malibu. One is a very successful surfer, so she's very well known, and the family is very well known. Mick, the father, is a very well known singer, but he's estranged from the family. So it deals with the dynamics of how each of the children have dealt with that as well. So yeah, this famous Hoover party that happens annually is the premise of what the story is set around. And I found that a lot of the chapters introduced way too many characters that were involved and were at this party. And a lot of them ended up being quite irrelevant to the story. So I found that I was getting so many names in my head that I couldn't keep up with who was who and what importance they had to the story, and sometimes they had absolutely no importance. It was just a little side gimmick of what was going on at this outrageous party being held at this fantastic house in Malibu. So that confused things a little bit for me. I found the story of the 4 main siblings and their backstory and their parents' backstory was really enjoyable to read. I just felt it got lost a little bit somehow in this idea of making this outrageous party. The ending was nice. I felt like it tied lots of things up, and I know there's going to be a sequel to this called Carrie Soto is Back, and I just feel that Carrie Soto is not a main character in this story. She's sort of a side character, and I feel like she's a little bit of a random character to base an entire book on. But we'll see. I will read that and see what happens, see if I like it or not. I do like Taylor Jenkins Reid writing style. I do like her ideas that her novels are set in the past, and I like the flavour that brings to her writing as well. But yeah, it was an interesting book. I gave it 4 stars. It didn't quite reach the 5 for me. Like I said, I was a little underwhelmed by it, unfortunately. But it had a good pace, good character development of the main characters. What let it down was the losing itself in this party scenario that just didn't really go anywhere. Okay, book number 3 that I'm going to talk to you about today is 6 Days by Dani Atkins. Dani Atkins is another of my favourite authors. Her books are incredibly emotional, and I always really enjoy them, and this one was no different. I absolutely loved it. So the premise of the story is that Gemma turns up on her wedding day to marry Finn, her fiance, and is jilted. He doesn't turn up at the church on their wedding day. And starting a novel in that way, I feel like you're instantly programmed to feel nothing but sympathy for Gemma, who obviously turns up, all of her friends and family are there, and she's got the embarrassment of not being met by Finn on her wedding day. And then you're obviously instantly programmed to hate Finn for putting Gemma through that. So I think it starts in a really, obviously not a nice way, jilting is never going to be nice, but it also like programmed you in for what you're about to expect. So the reason why the novel is called 6 Days is that Gemma goes to the police stating that this is very out of character for Finn, and wanting to announce him as a missing person. The policeman tells her that there are no sort of suspicious circumstances around why he's not there, and that perhaps he just didn't want to marry her. So it says that he needs 6 days. If he's still missing in 6 days, then perhaps they can start to consider it. We go through things like Gemma finds that all of Finn's clothes are now missing from the flat that they share, and all of the money has been cleared out of their bank account. So you're built up this idea that Finn has done a runner. But you're also getting these really beautifully placed chapters, again from the past, that build up a picture of the last 4 years and Gemma and Finn's relationship over that time, how they met, how they began dating, how their relationship moved forward. And it's these chapters that are placed so beautifully after you find out something from the present, where you go, no, Finn is no good, he's done a runner. And then you get this chapter that's placed from their past, and you find that he's quite a vulnerable character, he's quite emotionally vulnerable, and that he's showing a side to Gemma that he's never showed to anybody else. And it's in those chapters where you start to go, no, this Finn would never do that to Gemma, would never leave her on her wedding day. And so yeah, they're really beautifully placed chapters to start to get you thinking, and you sort of flip-flop between he's no good and there's no way he would have done this. So I really enjoyed that running theme throughout the book, that left you questioning what on earth could have happened. I do have one very small criticism though, in that it was quite an abrupt ending, and that's one of my real pet hates when I'm reading. So obviously, as you can see, I read on a Kindle, and the way I base where I am in the book, obviously you can't see how many pages you've read and compare it to the end, but I use the percentage, so what percentage of the book I am through. And one of my absolute pet hates is where you're at sort of 88%, 90%, thinking you've got 10% of the book left, and it ends there, and all you've got is 10% of pages from a chapter of a different book to try and get you to buy one of the author's other books. And this was one of those. I didn't think I was at the end, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're at the end. So I would have liked a little bit more, even just an epilogue to tie things up a little bit nicer for me. But despite that, I have still given this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I read it in just 5 days, ironically. The title is 6 Days. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it was a really, really good read, and I would recommend it, absolutely. Okay, next up is The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. Now again, this is an author that I have read before, and I absolutely adored her book, The Flat Share. I thought that was great, so again, I was looking forward to this one. Her books tend to be a little bit more fluffy, as I call it, so more of a romantic comedy vibe, and this one was set up to be similar. So on the front car, not on the front car, there's a car on the front cover, that's what I'm saying. On the front cover, it says 1 car, 5 people, a whole lot of history. And that's the premise of the book, and I really liked the premise of the book, is that 2 people who are in a relationship are now broken up, on their way to a mutual friend's wedding, in which they crash into each other, which is that realistic? Probably not. And then they're forced to sort of share a car together all the way up to a wedding that's in Scotland. So yeah, I really liked the premise of it. I did find though that it was a little bit drawn out. So the whole book is centered around this one sort of car journey. It does flash back to the past a lot, in which you find out a little bit more about the characters, but I did find that it was a little bit drawn out. And as the road trip went on, you get sort of a set of increasingly tedious circumstances that are quite unrealistic. I know that's probably the idea with a more romantic comedy vibe, but yeah, it just felt a little bit of a tedious idea by the end of it. However, the past chapters, so you go back again to the start of the relationship between Dylan and Addie, and you see how it builds up. Now, obviously, I really liked that because you know in the present that they are no longer together, so you've got this sense of foreboding, if you like, that something happens between them and you're not quite sure what it is. Their relationship is quite an emotional roller coaster. You go through quite a lot with them. And the secondary characters, so you have Dylan and Addie, who are sort of your primary main characters, the two who were in a relationship together. You have Addie's sister, Deb, and you have Dylan's best friend as well. So the secondary characters are quite well placed throughout the past chapters as well. So you do get, again, quite good character development throughout the book of those 4 characters. The 5th character in the road trip is a random guy who accepted the offer of a lift on Facebook, and his story turns out to be quite funny and a nice little sort of gimmick in the book as well. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. There was nothing wow about it. There was nothing absolutely terrible about it. I've given it a 3 stars. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but if you're looking for something to read that's a little bit more light-hearted, then yeah, it was an okay book. Wouldn't read it again. Okay, the final book I'm going to talk to you about today is Expectation by Anna Hope. So again, this was a new author to me. And the reason I read this is from watching one of Lucy Jane Wood's book recommendation videos, and I'm so glad that I read it. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the premise of it, and I think the reason why I enjoyed it so much is the realism behind it. It's just one of those books that you can absolutely see being real life. There was nothing ridiculous in it, nothing that was a bit of a stretch. It was all completely real. So the premise of the story is centered around 3 friends who have lived together in their early 20s, or their late teens, their early 20s, and they live in a flat in East London, sort of on the periphery and on the edge of a very artistic and exciting vibe. So they've had quite a lot of these shared experiences together. They're all at the edge of adulthood and sort of growing up together. It again flip-flops between the past and the present, so it then fast forwards to 10 years later, where the women are still friends, no longer living together, and their lives have gone 3 quite separate ways. And the thing I really liked about this book is I feel like I read it at the perfect age. I'm approaching 30 this year, which I need to stop thinking about. But I think it's about the sort of age that these women are in the 10 years on period. And what I thought was really hard hitting and again so realistic is the comparison. So in modern day society, I feel that naturally everybody compares themselves to everybody else, and the introduction of social media has exacerbated that problem. And I think that's sort of an intrinsic motivation in a lot of people my age, is that you compare where your life is to everybody else's. And that's exactly what these 3 women are doing, is they are comparing their lives to that of their friends. And it's interesting because what one woman sees as one of their friends having the perfect set of circumstances, that friend is craving something that's missing from their life that is present in the other person's life. And I thought that was really an interesting idea to explore, because I think that's part of all of us, is that it's that true meaning of happiness, isn't it? Is anybody ever 100% happy? Or is there always something that they're looking for, something that they're craving, whether that be a stable job and career, whether that be having children, whether that being in a loving, secure relationship. And it's those things that I really enjoyed reading, how each woman responded to what their friends were doing as well. And like I said, I just found it was a really realistic idea. The book sort of surmounts to a bit of a breakdown in their friendships, and they have to reflect upon their actions and address the expectations that they have and adjust those so that they can continue to be friends. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, it just had that relatable edge to it that I think made it very, very enjoyable read. I gave this one 4 stars. There's just something missing for me not to make it to that 5. But like I said, it was a really enjoyable book, and I think I will be reading others by Anna Hope, because I really enjoyed her writing. So those are the 5 books that I'm going to be reviewing for you today. I did just want to mention a couple of others that I have read recently. I read You and Me on Vacation, which I think goes by another title as well. Again, another one that is big on TikTok. I joined TikTok for a couple of weeks and wrote down a few books that were suggested on there, by Emily Henry. I gave this one 3 stars. Again, it was a little bit of a tedious idea that these 2 friends go on holiday together every year. And there's a bit of romance in it. It's a romantic comedy again, but I just felt it was a little bit drawn out and a little bit tedious by the end of it, so I just gave that one 3 stars. And another 3-starer that I read was The Perfect Couple by Jackie Kabler. This one was a little bit more of a thriller. As you can tell from the video, I've been reading a lot more sort of modern fiction and romantic books, if you like. I do like that modern fiction vibe because I find it the most realistic. But yeah, I read that thriller, again gave it 3 stars. I felt like it was a little bit obvious by the time that the reveal happened in this thriller. So yeah, they're just another couple of books that I've read recently. What I'm currently reading, I am currently reading a book by Lauren Weisberger, who is the author of The Devil Wears Prada. Now, when I was a teenager, I read The Devil Wears Prada and I absolutely loved it. And another Lauren Weisberger book I read was Last Night at the Chateau Marmont. I have no idea why I remember that title. I read it absolutely donkey's years ago. But yeah, I really liked her writing. So when I saw that there was a newer book by her, I thought I'd give that a go. So I'm reading that at the moment. So that'll probably be in my next book review video. And like I said, I will probably be reading quite a lot more over the coming weeks as we move into the summer holidays finally. So yeah, I will be back with more book recommendations as soon as I have them. So happy reading, everyone. If you're going to take anything away from this video today, it would be read It Ends With Us. Do it, but make sure you're emotionally prepared for it. I was told to be emotionally prepared for it and I still wasn't, so you got this, you can do it. And if you have enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe to see more future book vlogs. If you haven't already seen my Florida vlog series, then please check that out as well. And I will be back soon with more videos for you. Hit that subscribe button and I'll see you soon. Bye!